Take a sip. All right, we're gonna remove.
That's your live.
I know. I know that we're live right now, but Nikki, can you just tell me quickly, don't we want to record this? Are you record? Well, that will happen afterwards. All right, everybody, we are live. I hope everyone's doing well. You've been safe, you're healthy. Thank you for joining us. If you are joining us, if not, hopefully you're catching us on a later broadcast of this. I am trying to do some updates on the local market because there's lots of fun information going out there, but I really don't know how accurate it is. So I'm here to kind of break it down and put it into hopefully some manageable tips for you all. And if you have any questions, just let us know. I am doing this from home, so pardon the pouches of food in the back and my glare on my glasses. If you know of anybody that may be a good optometrist in the area, hit me up with that because I'm in the market for one. All right, so we are looking at a whole bunch of different areas. We've got 6 different counties that we're looking at. We're going to be looking at Fairfax, Montgomery County, PG County, Arlington, Alexandria, and then finally DC. I apologize that I don't have my teleprompter tonight. Instead, I'm going to be looking for my notes. But again, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, but if you have any questions, give me a holler. There's chat functionality available here, so let us know if you have any comments. All right, so looking at Fairfax, I'm looking actually at last week. I basically have 9 weeks of data. The number of units sold in Fairfax last week is one of the 3rd lowest weeks in the last 9 weeks. Or 2 months. There were 339 properties sold, whereby where the maximum sales price was 931% of list price. Did you hear that? That's 931% of list price. So let's just say a house was priced at $100,000. That means it had sold for over $900,000. That's insane, crazy. So that's some of the stuff where people are kind of buying into the hype about this being a crazy market. The average sales price in Fairfax is the highest it's been over the past 2 months. It's actually 103% of the actual list price. And the average sales price right now, average list price, I should say, is about $661,000 for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house. Listings are also up in Fairfax for the first time in a month. As we kind of go through this exercise tonight, you'll see that that's not the case across other jurisdictions. So it's good to see that Fairfax is still healthy in terms of listings coming to market. Overall, though, in Fairfax, prices are up 11%. So some good news there. If you're looking in Fairfax, some good stats there as well. If you have any questions about Fairfax, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to be moving on to Montgomery County. Good old MoCo. All right, everything in MoCo took a dip last week, except for the number of properties that went under contract. Listings are down 2.03%. Sold properties are down almost 30% at 26.87%. And prices in Montgomery County are down about 3.26% from the last time that we did this. So I'm actually looking at basically data through last Sunday, and again, prices are down about 3.26%. Listings this past week are the lowest they've been in the last 5 weeks. We had 338 properties hitting the market this last week. The week before, we were at 345. The week before that, 351. So there's been kind of like this continual increase. So when people talk about this demand versus supply, you can see that like we see some constraints going on in terms of the overall supply actually here. Last week in Montgomery County, 245 properties sold. The maximum sales price was 126% of list price. The average sold price was 99% of list price. You're going to hear me talking about these percentages, and I think that it's kind of important to realize what I'm saying here. So that means that of the 245 properties that were sold in Montgomery County last week, the average sales price was 99.9% of the actual list price. So you're not seeing a lot of deals there, but instead, given that the maximum sales price was 126% of that sales price or that list price, that people are actually bidding above or paying more than where the list price is. That's a strategy that a lot of realtors are deploying right now, that they're pricing well below market in order to get that competition, to get it to where, get the home sold to where the seller may ultimately or originally want to have priced the property. I'm hoping that makes sense. In Montgomery County, 594,000, so just below 600,000, will get you a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house in Montgomery County. That's not too bad. Now I can see why there's so many people kind of moving out of some of these urban areas, say DC, for some more space, actually in areas similar to Montgomery County. Okay, now on to PG County, Prince George's County. Again, I'm looking at 6 different counties. If you're finding us on any of our social media, please be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at 4J Real Estate. You can Google us for our YouTube channel at 4J Real Estate. 4J Real Estate. All of our social should populate. If not, you can always shoot us a text at the number that I think is going across your screen right now, and we'd be happy to link you up. All right, so in PG, the number of units sold in PG is down 29% from last week. So I think that overall, one of the takeaways here is that we're kind of seeing that there's this volatility in the market that's kind of consistent from the last time that I did one of these market updates. And the fact that we're down 29% from last week, and the week before we were up 19%. The week before that, we were at 6.5%. The week before that, we were down 40%. Don't pay attention to those numbers other than the fact that I'm trying to give you some illustration of the peaks and valleys that we're seeing. Volatility isn't necessarily something that we want to see in a market. We want to see things kind of being steady or improving. So we had double-digit changes in the number of listings as well as the number of units under contract. We saw a negative or a decrease of 15% in listings and a decrease of 11% in contracts this past week. Prices, however, are up 8%, although the pricing of last week is pretty much consistent from the week before. There were a total of 154 properties sold. The maximum sales price, again, 127% of list price, and the average sales price is slowly creeping up. So over the last 3 weeks, we were originally at 100% of list price. The week before, we were at 100.4%, and this past week, we were at 100.6%. I know that those are just minor differences, but they are significant when you take them in their kind of totality. In Prince George's County, 368,000 will get you a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house. That's the average sales price that we saw this past week. So if you're looking to get more for your money, some people may look towards PG County or do some research on PG County, as well as Montgomery County and some of the other places that I told you about. I decided to look a little bit further and just say that only 1 week have we seen listings over 300 in PG County. So we had 272 listings in PG last week. We haven't seen listings above that in this last 9 weeks. Above average where we were this time last year, though. This time last year we had 293. I'm sorry. This time last year we had 293 listings. Right now, we have 272. Don't mean to confuse you. That being said, we are actually at a little bit of a lesser volume right now in PG County than we were this time last year. I hope I'm not bugging you. I'm not bugging you, but boring you with all these details. But again, I promise that I'll get to some of these other areas that you may have more interest in. Now I'm going to move on down back to Virginia and talk a little bit about Arlington County. So Arlington County isn't as large as some of these others, so the numbers aren't going to be as stark, but the differences in terms of what's going on is still interesting as well. Listings, as you can see, are down 14.5%. Contracts, just a little bit more than that as well. The number of sold properties is exactly the same the past 2 weeks, where we've had 61 units go under contract or actually be sold this past week, so that's kind of interesting. The average sales price is 100.7% of list price, so slightly higher than some of these other jurisdictions. The list price is actually down 5% from 790,000 to 750,000 for a 3-bedroom, 3-bath property. Looking at this time last year, there were 55 active or 55 listings that came to the market. This week, we actually, or this time this year, right now, we saw actually 83 properties hit the market. It's not surprising, given that we're kind of seeing the market pick up a little bit later in the year than we have in years past. A couple of other really interesting figures is that the average list price in the maximum sales price in 2019 was 126.5 versus 117 that we're seeing now. And the average sales price was about 99.7% of the sales price versus 100.7 now. So I think across the board, I feel pretty confident in saying that, you know, agents are actually recognizing that now is a time where there is a little bit of a shift going on, and that they do need to price their properties a little bit more competitively. People have been talking about this forever, but I think that it's more so true now than we have before. Also, August is traditionally a slower month, especially in this area, just because so many people leave the area because of their jobs. If it's in Congress or whatever, now is the time to take their vacation before kids go back to school, if they're going back to school, whatever. We're not seeing that trend as much this year just because of the increase in comparison to some other years. All right, staying in Virginia now, taking a little bit of a turn to Alexandria. It's another area with double-digit decreases. Listings are down 16%. Properties sold are down 29%. List price is also down 19% from where it was last week. Boy, Alexandria is having a rough time right now. The last 2 weeks in Alexandria have kind of been a little bit rough for them as well. Lots of changes in average list price. It jumps from a low of 616 the week of July the 4th to a high of 806,000 the week of August the 10th. But now it's back down this past week to $652,000. And that will get you a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. So that's actually a little bit higher than what will get you in DC for that same price point. You're looking at probably high fives for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but we're not quite to DC yet. So bear with me and stay with me for just a little bit longer. The average sales price is still 100.2% of list price. So things are still a little bit healthy. Things are still healthy in Alexandria as well. 72 listings came on last week. The week before we were at 86. So some interesting things going on there. And I will end with DC. For those of you in DC, DC has kind of been like our secretariat or our purebred winner in this race the last several weeks. But unfortunately, this week it's actually gone down a little bit, kind of across the board. Last week we had the lowest number of listings besides the week of June 29th in the past 9 weeks. I should just mention quickly, I've been doing looking at these statistics since the beginning of COVID, so since the end of March, beginning of April. So if there's any sort of statistic that's of interest to you, let me know. Happy to provide that. The average sales price last week was 100.4% of list price. This week, slightly lower at 100.1%. The average sales price in DC is $750,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. There were 203 listings last year at this time, and we are at 272. So a little bit of an uptick in comparison to last year. The week prior, we had 328 listings hit the market versus 209 the year before. So kind of interesting to see like this kind of flip from 2019. Looking at closed sales this time last year, there were 234 units that sold this time last year. We only had 190 this past week. The average sales price last year was 128% of list price We're kind of a little bit lower at 123% of list price. The average last year this time was 718,000 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Again, we're at 754 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Whew, that's a lot of information. What can you take away from this? I think, this just goes to show that it's week by week in DC. I'm not in DC, but just in this general area, people are talking about it being a kind of frenzy out there from a market standpoint. I think that it is true in the fact that we don't have as many properties perhaps that we had before. We have just as many buyers, if not more buyers out in the market, just because interest rates continue to be low. For those of you interested in interest rates, we're looking at low 3s, high 2s for 30-year or 15-year fixed rates. A little bit higher if you're looking for 30-year rates, but still historically low. So a lot of people still in the market for a finite number of properties, which is why you're seeing, so much competition and so many properties going for so much more than list price. That is your market update through August the 23rd. If you have any questions for me, please be sure to text us. You've got my email. You've got my phone number. I'd love to talk to you and talk some real estate. Take care and look forward to seeing you soon. Be safe, everyone.